The junior doctor's name is Dr. Kishan Rees. He's also the director of something called WhatMed Media, which is a sort of a social media phenomenon of our time. I mean, what he says he hopes it will be is a 21st century soapbox, giving the silent majority a voice. So, without further ado, Kishan Rees.
Hello. Firstly, I'd like to thank Candy Gregory and the Momentum Thanet for putting on this amazing event and inviting me here today. Candy is a fellow healthcare professional that doesn't mind putting her head above the parapet. And I'd also like to thank Thanet for their support of junior doctors. We are facing a media onslaught, and that's why I set up WhatMed Media. I had some experience on the BBC where the interview was cut and chopped and presented in a way where I didn't really get my view across how I wanted to, or they tried to make that happen. So I went home and filmed it and set up a social media broadcaster around it. Needless to say, I haven't been invited back on the BBC since. I'd really like to continue the optimistic, positive tone that's already been set here today, but I can't help but think that it would almost be a waste of time. I could stand here and tell you all how Jeremy Corbyn has been the man to finally get me engaged in politics. I could tell you what a positive force for change Momentum is, but what would be the point? Because you all already know it. I'm a doctor, and that's why I'm on stage here today talking to you. More specifically, I'm a junior doctor that in the last year has become somewhat of an advocate for the NHS and social media. Before November 2015, I was politically naive and naive to the media and believed absolutely everything that I was spoon-fed by the press. I only saw, when I saw it with my own eyes, I only realised the barefaced lies they were spouting about the health service. It became clear that we had to fight back. And we had to fight back in a place where it would allow the voices of the silent majority to be heard. A place that couldn't be controlled by the mainstream press. It became clear that the only way to counter that bias and censorship by the media is via social media. And I'm so thankful that this dispute is happening in a social media age, because were it not to be, it would have been sewn up long ago. I've made it my mission to use my company, WhatMed Media, to debunk the falsehoods that are all too ready perpetuated by the mainstream media, and made it my mission to get the truth out there. Whether it be about the truth about the juniors doctors contract, the truth about NHS privatisation, the truth about the government raiding miners' pensions over the years, or the truth about the vendetta against Jeremy during this leadership election. Along the way, I've interacted with thousands of wonderful people who feel the same. They share our posts, they like the videos we've been making, they comment to tell me to keep up the good work. They feel empowered just by typing WATMED Media into their Facebook search bar. It makes them feel happy and involved, and that's the beauty of social media. The WhatMed Media Facebook page has thousands of followers, and although that's not quite enough to rival Momentum, it is a movement in its own right, and it's gathering pace. It's a collection of like-minded individuals like you here today, doing what they can, believing in the cause, and I'd encourage you to join them, because unlike Cameron, we really are all in it together now. That is why I'm happy to travel the length and breadth of the country. Newcastle, Lincoln, Nottingham, Leicester. Because what we need to do is get out there and engage with people who live just outside our social media circles. Such as the people who live here in Thanet. People who have become so apathetic towards politics and the mainstream media that UKIP managed to take control of a council here. Thank you, yeah, a few boos, that'd be good. And then what we've got to do is we've got to go to our hometowns, places like Watford where I'm from and Lincoln where I work, and we must engage with people and talk to them. Your frustrated neighbour who's sitting at home on a 0 hours contract, your work colleague who's going straight to their second shift because they're struggling to make ends meet, the teenager who's been left in limbo because he can't afford to go to university, and they left the school system that's convinced him that higher education is the only way to have a viable future. Because outside of what the Daily Mail would call this lefty bubble gathered here today is a whole country of people who think they have no interest in what we're fighting for. They think they are being ignored because they are. They think that their MPs have nothing to offer them because they don't. They think there is no point in fighting for an alternative or better future because they honestly don't see that there is one. And look, I know it's difficult sometimes. I know it's frustrating when we can't convince those people and they don't seem to be getting on board with what we know can be a better future. But it is with those people that the power lies. And what's most frustrating is they don't even know it. But I tell you what, there's one thing that's satisfying, and most politicians don't even know it either. Now, I'm not a politician, and in all honesty, I'm surprised they've invited me here today to share a stage with the leader of Her Majesty's opposition. It's all very surreal and a little bit strange. Hopefully not the leader for the opposition for much longer. I'm just a doctor, but I'll tell you what I do know. I interact with patients every day, people from all walks of life, and I've learned what is affecting them. Over the last few months I've been on a journey, and I realised that despite what we may say to each other here, despite moaning to our friends at home, there are some politicians who are willing to make a difference and fight for ordinary people. One such politician said this quote, and I was told it recently and it really opened my eyes. When a country fails to meet the needs of the most vulnerable, it also fails to meet the needs of the average citizen. That was said decades ago by a man called Aneurin Bevan. He was a politician. He was a health minister, in fact, and clearly he needs no introduction here. And he was talking about his greatest accomplishment, the NHS. When I heard that quote, I couldn't help but thinking, it's just as applicable today as it was when he said it. When we fail to meet the needs of the most vulnerable, we fail to meet the needs of everyone. Now, I don't think he was just talking about the NHS when he said that. He was talking about everything. There is one person who I believe keeps the maverick, and here comes the scary word if you believe the Daily Mail, socialist spirit of Aneurin Bevan alive today, and that is Jeremy Corbyn. He is a man who believes in the power of people, and a man who will meet the needs of the most vulnerable. So if we can all rise up together and support him, whether it be here today, whether it be through Momentum, whether it be through What Med Media, or whoever it may be, by talking to those who are not on social media, then we could really have the momentum to start making the positive changes this country is crying out for. And you know what? Then none of this will be a waste of time, because all of us here would have made a difference. So thanks very much, keep in touch, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Kishan. Very, very interesting speech. Let me just tell you one thing before the next speaker, which is that the organisers, which includes me, are very concerned about